October 2002. A single high-velocity crack shatters the twilight outside a shopper's food warehouse in Wheaton, Maryland. A storefront window shatters. A life is extinguished in an absolute instant. There is no warning, no shouted demand, and no apparent human motive. First responders arrive to find a chaotic scene entirely devoid of the typical forensic anchors they rely upon. There are no ejected shell casings glinting on the pavement, no frantic witnesses pointing to a fleeing suspect, and no immediate suspect profile to broadcast. The only tangible clue left behind is a shattered piece of glass and the devastating, microscopic impact of a single projectile. Within 24 hours, the terror multiplies exponentially. 5 more victims are gunned down in public mundane spaces across Montgomery County, a local gas station, a post office parking lot, a routine landscaping site, all become scenes of inexplicable slaughter. Investigators lock down perimeters, meticulously establishing a strict chain of custody, which is the chronological documentation of evidence handling, to preserve whatever microscopic clues might be left behind by the phantom shooter. Yet the physical evidence is hauntingly sparse. The victims cross all demographic lines, completely defying standard victimology. The sheer randomness of the targeting paralyzes the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, transforming everyday routines into potential death sentences. Law enforcement agencies face an unprecedented logistical nightmare that stretches their resources to the breaking point. The jurisdiction spans multiple counties, independent cities, and state lines, demanding immediate and flawless interagency synchronization massive. Task forces are hastily assembled, merging local police departments, state troopers, and federal agents from the FBI. The immediate operational challenge is not just hunting a killer, but managing a torrential flood of raw data. Tip lines are overwhelmed with hundreds of thousands of calls, creating an unmanageable signal-to-noise ratio. Detectives meticulously comb through the initial incident reports, desperately searching for a unifying thread in the seemingly disparate acts of extreme violence. The first critical investigative breakthrough emerges not from frantic eyewitness accounts, but from the sterile, brightly lit confines of the regional crime lab. Medical examiners and forensic technicians carefully extract fragmented projectiles from the victims during autopsy. These warped fragments are rushed to ballistic experts for immediate analysis. Under high-powered comparison microscopes, a chilling pattern finally materializes. The recovered bullets share identical class characteristics across multiple crime scenes. The microscopic striations, the unique fingerprint-like scratches left on a bullet as it travels down a rifled barrel, confirm the terrifying truth. A single weapon is responsible for the massacre. To definitively solidify this ballistic connection, forensic analysts turn to the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, commonly referred to as the NIBIN system. This sophisticated automated ballistic imaging network allows firearms examiners to compare digital images of ballistic evidence across vastly different jurisdictions. By entering the distinct microscopic markings of the recovered 0.223 caliber rounds into the database, investigators electronically link the Montgomery County shootings with absolute scientific certainty. The digital confirmation removes any lingering investigative doubt. The entire Washington area is under siege by a highly disciplined serial sniper, operating with a calculated and ruthless precision. The realization of a unified, highly mobile threat triggers a seismic shift in the public consciousness and daily life. Schools immediately lock down. Outdoor recreational activities are canceled indefinitely, and terrified gas station patrons crouch behind their engine blocks while refueling their vehicles. The sniper's modus operandi, their characteristic method of operation, is clearly designed to maximize psychological trauma and societal disruption. The shooter strikes in broad daylight in highly visible commercial locations, then vanishes like a phantom before police can even secure the perimeter. The media dubs this phantom the Beltway Sniper, amplifying the collective anxiety until the entire region becomes a sprawling, active crime scene. Amidst the escalating panic and immense political pressure, the complex investigation falls victim to a critical misdirection. Early in the spree, a frantic witness reports seeing a white box truck rapidly fleeing the immediate vicinity of a fatal shooting. This single uncorroborated detail rapidly metastasizes into an immovable investigative anchor. Law enforcement leadership issues sweeping alerts for white box trucks, initiating thousands of high-risk traffic stops across the eastern seaboard. The fixation on this specific commercial vehicle profile consumes immense tactical resources, inadvertently providing the true perpetrators with a devastating form of psychological camouflage. The pervasive white truck theory highlights the inherent danger of relying upon eyewitness testimony in high-stress, chaotic environments. While the chain of custody for the microscopic ballistic evidence remains pristine, human memory proves remarkably fragile and highly suggestible. The massive task force, desperate for any actionable lead, inadvertently creates a psychological feedback loop where the terrified public actively looks for and subsequently reports the very vehicle the police are publicly seeking. The invisible killer continues to operate with absolute impunity, heavily shielded by the massive misguided dragnet sweeping the highways. The rigid, failing parameters of the massive manhunt are finally shattered by the killer's own psychological hubris. On October 7th, outside a middle school in Bowie, Maryland, a 13-year-old boy is shot and critically wounded upon arriving for classes. In the adjacent heavily wooded area, tactical investigators discover a flattened patch of grass, indicating a potential sniper's nest. More importantly, they find a single pristine tarot card left deliberately behind. The death card on it, a handwritten message reads, "Call me God." This chilling artifact is the first direct communication from the Phantom, shifting the investigation from a purely reactionary posture to an active high-stakes psychological duel. The recovered tarot card is immediately subjected to rigorous multi-layered forensic scrutiny at the federal laboratory. Technicians process the card for latent fingerprints, trace DNA profiles, and indented writing that might reveal previous notes on a pad. While the immediate physical yields are frustratingly minimal, the psychological profile of the killers comes into much sharper focus. The handwritten message betrays a profound grandiosity and a desperate narcissistic need for public recognition. This psychological vulnerability suggests the killers might attempt further direct communication, providing investigators with a vital, exploitable opening in an otherwise impenetrable case. The anticipated communication arrives through a series of erratic, untraceable phone calls directly to dedicated police tip lines. The callers, speaking with a distinct sense of urgency and arrogance, demand millions of dollars and attempt to claim responsibility for previous seemingly unconnected crimes. The task force, actively managing the overwhelming volume of incoming data, initially dismisses some of these bizarre calls as cruel hoaxes perpetrated by the public. However, one specific, highly detailed call forces a dramatic reevaluation of the entire investigative strategy and geographic scope. The caller, audibly frustrated by the lack of police cooperation and media recognition, arrogantly directs federal investigators to a previous unsolved crime in Montgomery, Alabama. This seemingly boastful tangent is the fatal foundational error the task force has been waiting for. The caller explicitly mentions a shooting at a liquor store weeks before the Beltway attacks even began. Detectives in Washington, D.C. immediately contact their law enforcement counterparts in Alabama, initiating a cross-country forensic alignment that will finally crack the impenetrable facade of the sniper investigation. The Alabama connection provides the crucial physical anchor the sprawling task force has been desperate to secure. During the Montgomery liquor store robbery, a police officer was tragically killed, and the fleeing suspect dropped a commercial magazine detailing firearms. The local Alabama investigators had meticulously processed this paper magazine, successfully lifting a single, high-quality latent fingerprint from the glossy surface. This fingerprint, previously unidentified in local systems, is now recognized as the most valuable piece of forensic evidence in the country. It is immediately uploaded into the FBI's National Automated Fingerprint Identification System. The automated national system rapidly scans millions of criminal and civil records, searching for a geometric match to the intricate ridges and whorls of the Alabama print. The digital search yields a definitive, undeniable hit. The fingerprint belongs to Lee Boyd Malvo, a 17-year-old Jamaican immigrant with a minor prior record. This positive identification completely shatters the prevailing profile of a lone, highly trained military sniper operating in isolation. The massive investigation finally has a verified name, a distinct face, and a concrete starting point to unravel the complex web of the perpetrator's origins. The positive identification of Malvo rapidly accelerates the investigative momentum, transforming a cold hunt into a targeted pursuit. Detectives delve deeply into his background, discovering a close, almost paternal relationship with an older man named John Allen Muhammad. Muhammad, a Gulf War veteran with documented expert marksmanship training, perfectly fits the tactical profile of the elusive shooter. The disparate pieces of the puzzle are snapping together with blinding speed. The task force fundamentally shifts its operational focus from a phantom white box truck to a highly specific two-man hunting team. A deep, comprehensive dive into the historical records of John Allen Muhammad reveals a critical, immediately actionable lead. Investigators run a nationwide database check on all vehicles currently or previously registered to his name. The national database returns a hit for a 1990 blue Chevrolet Caprice. This revelation is a seismic shock to the collective task force. For weeks, the entire region had been paralyzed by the The sheer scale of the manhunt is now laser-focused and highly publicized. The national media broadcasts the specific vehicle description, instantly transforming millions of terrified citizens into an army of potential spotters. The invisible net is finally rapidly closing around the two men. The climax of the massive manhunt arrives with stunning suddenness on October 24, 2002. Shortly after midnight, an alert civilian citizen spots the specific blue Chevrolet Caprice parked quietly at a rest stop off Interstate 70 in Myersville, Maryland. The citizen immediately contacts the authorities, providing the exact location and license plate. Elite tactical teams from the FBI and the Maryland State Police silently converge on the darkened rest stop, executing a meticulously coordinated high-risk approach. They must neutralize the imminent threat without triggering a final, catastrophic shootout in a public area. Heavily armed tactical units completely surround the suspect vehicle in the freezing darkness. Flashbang grenades detonate with blinding brilliance, shattering the silence and instantly disorienting the sleeping occupants. Armored officers aggressively breach the windows of the Caprice, physically dragging John Allen Muhammad and Lee Boyd Malvo from the vehicle before either man can reach for their weapons. The 23-day reign of terror is definitively over. But the detailed forensic investigation into the precise mechanics of their mobile killing machine is just beginning. The blue Chevrolet Caprice is heavily secured, impounded, and subjected to an exhaustive forensic deconstruction at a federal facility. Investigators discover a horrifying, meticulously engineered masterpiece of lethal convenience. The rear seat has been completely modified, allowing silent, unobserved access to the trunk from the passenger compartment. Inside the trunk, they find no exculpatory evidence that might point to their innocence. Instead, they find the ultimate instrument of guilt. It is the primary murder weapon itself, a Bushmaster XM15 semi-automatic rifle equipped with a holographic sight and a tactical bipod. The heavily modified trunk of the Caprice served as a highly effective mobile sniper's nest. The perpetrators had deliberately drilled a small, inconspicuous hole near the rear license plate, allowing them to fire from a concealed prone position while the vehicle remained completely stationary and unremarkable. The sterile scent of the crime lab soon replaces the smell of unburned gunpowder, as technicians definitively match the Bushmaster rifle to the 5.56 caliber rounds recovered from the victims. The NIBN system confirms the definitive ballistic link, tying the weapon to every single crime scene without exception. The overwhelming forensic triumph rapidly transitions into a highly complex, multi-jurisdictional legal battle. State and federal prosecutors face the daunting task of determining primary jurisdiction, as the horrific crimes span multiple independent states. The strategic decision is made to try Muhammad and Malvo first in Virginia, a state known for its stringent application of the death penalty. The prosecution's core strategy relies heavily on the meticulous chain of custody and the undeniable ballistic evidence recovered from the Caprice, constructing an airtight, scientifically backed case against the two snipers. The subsequent trials of John Allen Muhammad and Lee Boyd Malvo become landmark events in American criminal jurisprudence. The defense teams attempt to argue that Malvo was deeply brainwashed by the older Muhammad, introducing complex psychological testimonies to mitigate his culpability. However, the sheer crushing weight of the physical evidence, the perfectly matched striations on the bullets, and the deliberately engineered trunk of the Caprice proves insurmountable. The forensic narrative leaves absolutely no room for reasonable doubt, securing definitive convictions for both perpetrators. The Beltway Sniper case fundamentally alters the landscape of modern law enforcement and interagency communication. The initial investigative missteps, particularly the catastrophic over-reliance on the white box truck theory, become textbook examples of confirmation bias and the extreme dangers of uncorroborated eyewitness testimony. The complex investigation forces a critical nationwide reevaluation of how agencies process mass information during an active crisis, leading to the rapid development of more sophisticated centralized data management and tip sorting systems. Conversely, the ultimate success of the investigation highlights the indispensable, life-saving value of technological integration across jurisdictions. The rapid identification of Malvo's fingerprint and the definitive matching of the ballistic evidence underscore the absolute power of national forensic databases. The NIBIN system, once considered a specialized tool for major cities, cements its status as a critical, everyday asset in the fight against serial gun violence. The case proves decisively that even the most calculated mobile killers cannot entirely erase their microscopic forensic footprint. The dark legacy of the 2002 attacks is permanently etched into the collective memory of the Washington, D.C. region. The Ultimately, it was the unwavering dedication to the evidence, the microscopic striations on a bullet, and a single latent fingerprint that pierced the darkness and brought the phantoms into the light of justice.